Welcome back to Rubbin Minds. Now, from the insurgency in the north to the farmer headsman clashes that we continue to see in the Middle Belt to the kidnappings, the armed robberies in the south. Throughout Nigeria, insecurity has been on a rise, and Nigerians are asking, are we really safe? What is the government doing? And when do we feel safe enough to go about our businesses, to go about our lives, to go back home, to visit, to explore the country in its entirety? And we've seen what has been happening these past weeks. So the conversation today is looking at security, the security apparatus, the security infrastructure. Where do we go, Nigeria? To discuss this, I have with me a defense security expert, Dr. Nnamdi Chife. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. And joining us for this conversation is also a lawyer and human rights activist, Festus Ogun. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you for having me.
It's a hard conversation, but it's one that must be had. Security affects everyone and everything. In your honest assessment, and this question is to both of you, is Nigeria, what is happening? Is there a crisis? Is there a collapse? Or are we just adjusting to the chaos? Is the insecurity becoming a new normal for us?
Okay, so here's the thing. We have a structural problem with tackling insecurity in Nigeria. If you look at some of the statements coming from the Chief of Defense Staff, the Minister of Interior, both of them talked about the way our manner our border is porous, and talking about the collapse of security or governance in the Sahel. And we have ungoverned spaces. People move from the border, the northeast, and also the northwest with Nigeria. So if you look at it in a holistic term, we can't say, okay, it's limited to northwest, northeast. We have a border security crisis. And the invasion that happened in Benue, according to intelligence, according to the security chiefs, happened to be foreign invaders. But there are also other elements of communal crises that are associated with past killings in Benue. But this one, we need to identify it as foreign invasion. And how do you curb this problem? We need to start looking at how to, stop invasion from the outside of the country. Either you are talking about the southeast, you have the Ambazonia rebellion happening in southern Cameroon. The south is awash with all kinds of light weapons. They are using this to commit kidnapping for ransom and all kinds of terror in the southeast, south. If you come to the southwest, you have the semi-border, you have all kinds of in and out, illegal footpaths in those areas. Then you have the northwest, northeast, north central. So the 4,000 kilometers that our Minister of Interior talked about, I think the president has to declare sort of a state of emergency on trying to prevent influx of people into our border. Then we can tackle the issue of ungoverned spaces.
Festus, how would you rate the security infrastructure currently on ground in Nigeria?
I would say that the security infrastructure has completely broken down. And I say this because I know as a fact that the security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. And what we've seen in the past years is that the Nigerian authorities has failed quite woefully in protecting our countrymen. We saw just a few days ago, I would say, over 200 persons were mindlessly murdered in Benue State. Not just that, I read in the news while coming here that about 30 persons were killed in Kebbi by supposed terrorists. Now, when we, on a daily basis, read this news, they are becoming a normal occurrence almost on a daily basis. That points directly to the fact that the security architecture is not only weak, it has completely broken. And that is why, for all of the, issues, security issues that doctor has, rightfully identified from our porous border, from the commitment of the leadership to put an end to all of this, It still boils down to leadership. The porous border can be tackled, the issues surrounding the porous border can be tackled by our leadership. We are talking about communal crisis. I do not see, for me, as far as I'm concerned, as also rightly identified by the Tortiv, the issue that happened in Benue appeared to me to be beyond a matter of communal crisis. It is a case of full-blown terrorism. And after the incident occurred, the president was even asking, when he went to visit Benue, he was asking the IGP, why has there not been any arrest made so far? That demonstrates that because these criminals will commit this crime and at the same time get away with it, and there won't be consequences at the end of the day, they have that courage, and they are pushed to even do the worst because they know that they are going to get away with their crime. So tall and short of the point I labor to make is that the security has broken down. All of us, including those of us speaking here and everyone watching us, we are potential victims. That the country remains a risk unless and until the leadership of our country finds the courage to tackle insecurity heads on.
Dr. Namdi, I want to pick up on what you said about the leadership, and I want you to assess the response of this government, because it seems like it's a statement that comes out, the visit happens, everybody talks, and then it becomes business as usual. Like you said, no arrests have been made. So is that sending a stronger signal to the perpetrators of these violent crimes that you can get away with it, literally?
So for us to tackle this problem, we have to go back to the Constitution. The governors are saying that they do not have, because if you look at this, these things are happening within the states, and the governors are chief security officers. Many of them are calling for state security. And recently I saw the National Assembly has State Police Act on some of the amendments in the Constitution. And the governor of Zamfara recently said he needs a state to be, to have a state police. The governor of Benue, in fact, the last 2 months National Executive Council meeting, they proposed that out of maybe 35 states have signed on to state policing, because you don't need to have the military coming in to fill the gap for what they are not trained to do. By Constitution, the military is supposed to come in to assist the civil authority. But where the police as an institution has not been properly equipped or funded or trained to tackle these problems, the military are not coming in with their capabilities. So I believe that it's not like states are not, authorities are not giving in their best, but they are asking for a structure, a new ways to tackle this problem. If Benue has state police and also a governance structure in some of these places that are not governed, some of these places don't have government in place, and they are collecting federal allocation. So the idea that governors do not have security to deploy to tackle security threats in their state is also a problem. The military cannot police the entire state. The primary institution that ought to be tackling this problem is the Nigerian police force. But they are not trained with the way they are not properly funded with the way. So it has to do with a whole lot of issues that has to be starting from reforms. And without tinkering with the Constitution, having the state to deploy capability as a state force to tackle these problems, and deploying governance structures across these ungoverned spaces, will continue to have the problem.
First of all, Nigerians are looking for answers and looking for solutions. And like you said, the mandate of government is to protect the lives and the property of the people. So what should Nigerians be asking of their presidents, of their governors, of their local government chairmen? Because we need answers. This cannot continue. Or like you said, all of us here are not safe.
Well, I will just continue from where Doctor stopped. And I will go a bit elaborate on this. We need a state policing system. Nigeria is a federalism, no doubt. But you see that we currently operate a system that is unitary in nature. especially as it comes to our security architecture. By dint of the Constitution and in fact the Police Act, it is right there that the head and the operational head of the Nigeria Police Force is the Inspector General of Police. Now, if this Inspector General of Police controls all the policemen in the country, including in our villages, this same Inspector General of Police is answerable to the president. So, even when we call the governor of a state the chief law officer of that state, we must ask ourselves a question: are we joking? Because the security architecture of that country doesn't lie in the hand of that governor. Have we not seen situations where we have a state governor who is having issues or belongs to a political party different from the political party heading the federal government of Nigeria? And you will see that, yes, he's the governor, but there are issues in the state and he can't really make directives. Look at the crisis going on in Osun State, for example. The local governments in Osun State are locked by the Nigerian police, headed by the Nigerian police force. So you see that the governors are not chief security officer of the state because the power of policing do not reside in them. And issues of security, these are a security expert. I'm a lawyer. It is the security, it's local. And that was when we even wanted to commence Amotekun some years back. There were protests, even from the federal government. And we had to tell them that, look, the framework of Amotekun, the legal framework surrounding Amotekun is, quite different. But is it sustainable for every state to start creating their Amotekuns? I do not think so. All we need is to put all hands on deck to ensure that the National Assembly amends the Constitution to ensure that we have state police. In fact, even if we are not giving all the powers to the state policing system, maybe basic issues of maybe communal issues and all of that, let's leave that to this. Maybe we should even share some of these roles. So we say that, for this kind of crimes, let the state take care of it. For this, let the federal take care of it. Maybe we should start from there, because some are making the argument that the state governments are going to misuse.
Yes,
this.
I think.
But there is entirely no time that the issue of abuse will not arise, because power corrupts, absolutely. But we also need a system that will tame the wings of the executive or whosoever intends to abuse the state policing. So we cannot say that because we are afraid that the governors would abuse the state police, then we shouldn't have it. We should not have it. That cannot be a sound argument. My own position is that whether it will be subject to abuse is an argument on its own. But the necessity of having a state police cannot be negotiated. What we need is to also have a measure in place that would check the excesses of these persons that the executive who will be in charge of the implementation of the state police. That's the way I see it.
Checks and balances.
Absolutely.
Doctor, while this is going through the National Assembly and we're awaiting the constitutional review, what can the leadership be doing now in the short term to restore the confidence of Nigerians that they can go about their businesses in a safe manner? I mean, we've seen the president go visit Benue State. We saw children pulled out of schools to line the streets to sing the national anthem. There was whole pomp and pageantry, red carpet. It was almost like a banquet of sorts, and then a meeting, questions and answers. Could more have been done? Is that the most emotionally intelligent response to a crisis of that magnitude? And still we've seen no arrests. Okay,
so here's the way I see it is the governors are not powerless to an extent. The governors have security votes, and they cannot claim not to know what to do if your state is being overrun by criminals. Take example, for example, in Anambra State. For the past 2 years, the state has been infested with kidnappers, all kinds of terror happening across the communities. But this January, governor set out to pass, submitted a bill to the State Assembly, the Anambra State Internal Security Law, set up, traditional institutions, traditional rulers, vigilante services in every community. We have 326 wards, political wards in Anambra State. Each of these wards have vigilante, traditional ruler, and also a town union corps. So it has to be, you have to think outside of the box. Before the constitutional amendment is done, the state has to organize themselves in a way that you try to take over these ungoverned spaces. Do not leave. It goes to some of these states, there's no presence of government. So what you need to do, you need to take over these ungoverned spaces and bring in a government institution with the traditional, if you talk to some leaders in the north, they tell you that since the institution of district heads were decimated in some parts of north, that is when you see this, because when crime starts manifesting at the infants, you have district heads who try to prescribe solutions to the crime before it gets to maybe the emir or skyrockets to former governmental institutions. But a situation where the governor says, oh, I'm waiting for the federal government. You don't have to wait for the federal government. The Nigerian Governors Forum can even sit down with the IGP, talk about zonal operations intervention in a way that, because operations take time, you need to fund operations for like 12 months to be able to degrade the capacity of criminals, terrorists, and bandits, to deny them freedom of movement and action. So you have to sit down either as a collective, the Governors Forum, or as an individual. You can't say, Plateau governor cannot say, oh, you don't have a vigilante service or a security structure in a place whereby people were just murdered. If there were people you are suspecting them to be criminals, there should be an agency, either a vigilante or a government agency that they can hand people over to. So saying that, oh, you're waiting for federal government to pass bills or to come and intervene, no. They can use alternative solutions, alternative mechanisms to curtailing crime in their various states. And that's my position on it.
And what's your position, Festus, with the response in the immediate by this government?
Well, I will just take the case of Benue State as an example. For me, I strongly feel that the president, who is the commander-in-chief of armed forces, or who stabilizes the security reports of the country, is not empathetic enough in respect of security challenges that we experience on a daily basis. You see that when the massacre that happened in Benue State was all over the news, the Pope in Rome, Italy, condemned that sad occurrence. The president of Nigeria has not said anything. It took outcry by activists, by citizens in the media, before the president was compelled to release a statement at night. At the end of the day, the president regarded in a statement, or regarded the mindless massacre of our countrymen to a case of communal crisis, urging the governor to see to the, when it was a clear case of terrorism. That is not all. On the following Monday, the president mentioned that he will look at his schedule, or say things to the effect that he will check his schedule to see how he would make himself available on a Wednesday. Again, that demonstrates the fact that the president is really not concerned, because there is no schedule that is greater than the lives of 200 countrymen that were lost to these criminals. I've made the point clear that the lives of those persons that were lost, 200 human beings, the value of their lives is not less than that of the president. The way the president has blood in his veins is the same way those 200 persons that were killed. The same way he has organs is the same way. So there is no Nigerian that is greater than other Nigerians. So the president said he is going to clear his schedule before he visits the state. But that is not even all. The day he visited the state, we saw children in the rain singing national anthem, waiting for the president. I will not ascribe that to the president, but that is completely condemnable because it violates even the rights of these children. And what I saw was a banquet. I do not see, because in fact, it looked like a political gathering where, you know, the president was practically,
unfortunately, we're out of
making
time.
manifestos.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you very much, Festus Ogo, and thank you very much, Dr. Nnamdi Chife, for being our guest here on Rubbin
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
We'll go on a quick break on Rubbin Minds. Don't go anywhere. The show continues soon.